Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's nice being your face once again. In today's tutorial, we're going to be taking how to cut a straight pant using the Italian method. There are different methods out there, but I love using the Italian method because it gives a better fitting. So if you are new to my channel, you are welcome. So guys, these are the tools we'll be using. Our tape measurements, our marker, paper scissors, French curve, our long ruler, our pattern paper, then my standard measurements. But the measurement I will be using is written on your screen. We will start with the front pattern and I will indicate, the first thing I'm going to do is to indicate my guideline from the top edge of my paper and from the side. Then before we mark our vertical lines, then I will tell you how to cut out, even if you are using your fabric or you are using your pattern paper. So that's the next thing we're going to do. So I've marked my 2 inches from the top edge of my paper and I've marked my 2 inches from the side. But how did I get the size of the pattern that I'm using? Just like if I'm cutting my fabric, that's the way I'm going to cut it. So what I normally do is I divide my hip by 4 plus the crotch extension I'm going to use for front plus 3 inches sewing allowance. So to get my crotch extension, you have the formula, it's written on your screen. So it's my hip divided by 20 for the front. So that's how I got my width. Then my length is 46 inches, but the length I'm going to use is going to be the main length. It's 44 plus 2 inches hemming allowance. So the total is 46 inches. So that is what we have here. But I'm going to remove 2 inches when taking my measurements because of the band I'm going to use. But in case it is a bandless, I don't need it. I will just measure directly from the top edge of my paper and I would have added my sewing allowance. But in this pattern, using band, so I'm going to remove the 2 inches from the top edge of my paper. So the next thing to do now is to mark our hip depth, crotch depth, knee, then the ankle length or the floor length. So I'm going to use 10.03 because it's a very fitted pant. So I'm using 10.03. But if I'm making like a jumpsuit, I use 11.5 inches in my crotch depth. So this is the standard measurement I've been using for years to make my ready to wear. So for other clients that are distance clients, so this is what I use. So now I'm going to measure 8 3/4, subtracting that band length out of my measurements, as you can see. So I'm going to mark 8 3/4, then I'm going to mark my length 10.3. So the same thing, I'm just going to use 10.3, then 8 3/4. So I'm going to connect the measurements. Okay, so now the next thing to do now is to get, actually I don't need my knee length here, but I'm just going to indicate it just in case you want to make other pants to be able to get it, to get the point of the knee length. Sometimes I measure the client if I have the client nearby, but if I don't measure them, there's a way we used to get it. So let me mark the actual length of the pants, then from there we'll divide to get our knee length. So the actual length I'm using is 44, 44. This is for floor length, thereabouts. If it's a normal length, I think it's about 40 that I should have used, but because of the heels that we wear these days, that's why it's 44. So I'm not going to take it from that point, I'm going to take it from 40 here. So I'll just give it a notch from that point. I'm going to connect my floor length. Okay guys, so to be able to get the nail length, I take it from the 40, I divide into 2, I indicate. From that point I move up by 2 inches. Okay guys, so I've gotten, so this will be the waistline, the hip line, the crotch line, the knee line. If I was making some type of pants that I need to shape, I would have measured the tie line, but I don't need it in this particular pants that I'm making. The next thing to do is to divide my hip by 4. So the hip I have is 40, but I'm going to add 1 inch ease allowance to it, making it 41 inches. So I'm going to divide that by 4, which gives me 10.25. So I'm going to mark that 10.25 on my waistline, on my hip line, on my crotch line. Okay, so we're getting it. So the next thing now to do is to our crotch extension. Now, how do we get our crotch extension? Our crotch extension, just like I said, is our hip divided by 20. So in this measurement, I'm going to use 2.1. It's 2.05, but approximately I'll use 2.1. So I mark my 2.1 plus half inch sewing allowance. So I've marked that. So now the next thing to do now is I want to get my grease line. I'm supposed to connect, but I will get my grease line first. So from this point to this point, I'm going to get my grease line. So how do I get it? I will divide into 2 to get my grease line. Grease line in Nigeria is called gator line. Gator. It's called gator line in Nigeria. So I don't know what you call it in your country. Yes, in Nigeria it's called gator. So I'm going to transfer this to the waistline and to the knee line to be able to get my straight line. So to the knee line and down to the length of the pants. So I'm going to connect with my straight roller. So we have gotten our major lines. So the next thing to do now is to curve our crotch extension. But before then, I need to work on the waistline. So how do I get the waistline? I move in by half an inch from the center front, and I move down by 3/4 of an inch, just for those that have bloating stomach, to give a good fitting around that area. That's why we have to move down by 3/4 of an inch and move in by half an inch to make it flat on the stomach. So now what I'm going to do now, I'm going to move in by half an inch and move down by 3/4 of an inch. Then I'm going to use my French curl to give it a smooth curve. So I'll take it from this point of our crotch extension and I will connect. The next thing to do now is to measure our waistline measurement and connect to the hip. So my waist measurement is 30 in this case. So I'm going to divide the 30 by 4, which gives me 7.5. So I'm going to mark 7.5 from that point. Okay, so I'm going to mark 7.5 from that point onto the waistline. So now for those that want that, you can add that to this measurement and add sewing allowance. But in this case, I don't need that. I normally don't use that for my skirts in the front, neither my pants in the front. I don't use that. So I have my 7.5 inches. So from that point now, I'm going to measure at half an inch to give me my sewing allowance. So I'm just going to add half an inch. You can add 3/4 of an inch as a sewing allowance or 1 inch, depending on what you are sewing or where you are placing your zip. But in this particular one, I'm just going to add half an inch. Then from my hip side, I'm going to move out half an inch, because I'm going to add half an inch as the sewing allowance. So I'm going to move out half an inch as the sewing allowance. So I'm going to connect from that point. Okay guys, so I'm going to connect this the same way. I'm going to measure it to be able to get the right measurements. I'm going to measure what I got from my crotch line down to the floor boards. So guys, so from this point now I'm going to connect to the waistline and add sewing allowance to the center front and to the upper side of my measurement. So at this point I'm going to add half an inch. Now for this kind of pants that I'm making, I'm going to add zip to the side, not to the center front. In the course of our journey, we will still take a pant with zip in the front. So I'm going to connect using my free hand. Okay, so I've connected. Then I'm going to mark the half inch on the upper side, the top side of my pants. So I'll connect. Okay guys, at this point we are through with our straight pants for front. We are through with our straight pants for front. So the next thing to do now is to cut our back straight pants. So we're going to place the front on the back. Then we're going to copy some of these lines. We're going to copy it on the back to be able to allow us to finish our back pattern. So that's the next thing I'm going to do. So guys, this is my back pattern. I brought it. So how did I cut out the back pattern? What I did was to divide my hip into 4, then plus the crotch extension for the back, and to get the crotch extension for the back is our hip divided by 10 plus 3 inches, 2 inches acting as a guideline and 1 inch for sewing allowance. So what is going to happen now is I'm going to recopy all these lines, the nail line, the grease line, the waistline. So I'm going to recopy everything to the back to enable me finish my back. So while you watch, let me copy them. So to be able to allow you copy easily, all you need is to do just place your ruler, hold over the ruler for the front, then you mark. You can see the trace, so that enables you to get the straight line. On the back. So the next thing we do is to mark the hip. Okay guys, So now the next thing we're going to do now, we copied our grease line for the front, the center front, we copied it on the back, our guideline from the top edge of our paper, our side 2 inches from the side, the knee, the length of the pants, and the hemming allowance, and the hip. So we recopied everything from the front to the back. So now what next are we going to do is to mark our crotch extension. But how do we mark crotch extension in the Italian method? Just like I said, we don't mark from this point out, we mark in first. So how do we get that? Is half of our hip divided by 24. Half of our hip divided by 24. So for this particular measurement that I'm using, I got 0.85, but most times I just approximate and I use 1 inch. So I'll just mark my 1 inch here. Then to connect from the grease line to the center front that we marked, I'm going to divide it into 2 and mark the middle. So fold over, then I mark, then I connect from this point to this point. So as you can see, mark out our crotch extension for the back. So how do we get the crotch extension for the back? Is our hip divided by 10. So now for this particular measurement, after dividing by 10, I got 4.1. So I'm going to measure from this place and measure out my 4.1. So mark my 4.1, then plus half inch sewing allowance. So I'm going to connect from this point now to this point. But before that time, to cover up our butts, or I call it buttocks. So now there's something I need to educate to show you guys. So now it depends on the client you are working with, depends on who you are working with, or even if it's you that is going to wear it. There are different shapes. There are some that have a bigger butt. There are some that have a flat butt. Now for somebody who has a bigger butt, to extend out from this point, is either you use about 2 inches or 1.5 inches or 1.75, depending. Now for somebody with a smaller butt or a flat butt, I normally use 1. If they have a flat butt, I use 1, because if it is too much, it will just create a gap. There won't be any fitting at that point. So now for this client, I'm just going to use 1.5 inches. So I'm going to measure out from this point 1.5 inches. So that's why when you are even giving your guideline, depending, you have to extend it out more. So that's why I gave 2 inches at the upper side and 2 inches at this side. So you will see the difference why I gave it that to 2 inches. Okay, so we've marked it. Then the next thing is to connect our crotch. So now when you see it, the butt is going to be sitting on this thing, on this crotch. This crotch is going to be sitting on it. So now from this point now, I'm going to now measure my waist measurement. Now you will notice that this is where our hip was sitting before. So moving in from this point and this space, you see that our hip has changed. So we have to measure from this line now out to get our hip, and our hip was 10.25. So I'm going to remark my 10.25 on that line. As you can see, our hip has shifted out. I'm going to mark my waist from here, which is 7.5 inches. I'm going to mark it on this line. You just shift your tape measurement to be on this line. Mark 7.5 inches. So I'm going to mark 1 inch for my dart allowance. then ½ inch sewing allowance, then ½ inch here for sewing allowance. So I'm going to connect this line first. So from this sewing allowance, I'm going to connect to this point. Okay, so now the same thing happens on our crotch line, so we'll move it out too. So our 10.25 on that line, then plus our ½ inch sewing allowance. So we'll connect So what is left now for the back is our dart line and this extension. So I'm going to mark out this measurement to be able to have my straight line. Okay, so guys, we are cutting our back. So what is just left now is the dart for the back. So how do we get that? All you need to just divide this into two, just to the exact measurement, not with the sewing allowance, to the exact measurement, then you divide into two. And from that point, you measure 5.5 inches down. Then we connect our darts, marking ½ inch in between that line. So I'm going to mark ½ inch, and connect my dart. Next thing to do is we need to add our sewing allowance, ½ inch. Okay guys, this is the front and this is the back. We finished cutting, so our pant is ready. As you can see on your screen, that is the pant that was made out of this pattern. The zip was attached at the side using the ½ inch sewing allowance. So guys, if you have enjoyed my tutorial, please give us a thumbs up, then share with likable minds. Subscribe if you have not subscribed, because that will make you to encourage this channel to grow. And I will see you in my next tutorial.